Hello, GW political junkies, and welcome to this week's episode of Colonial Crossfire. You can disagree without being disagreeable. Those are the words of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed away on Friday, September 18th, at the age of 87, after a battle with pancreatic cancer. Justice Ginsburg, who served on the Supreme Court for more than a quarter of a century, dedicated her life's work to advocating for gender equality, significantly advancing the rights of women in society as a true trailblazer. The story begins in Brooklyn, New York, where Joan Ruth Bader was born in 1933 to Nathan and Cecilia Bader. Throughout her years, RBG spoke about the influence her mother had on her life. It was Cecilia, she said, who taught her the importance of being independent and having a strong education. She went on to achieve that strong education, enrolling and excelling at Cornell University, where she graduated first in her class. It was also at Cornell where Bader met Martin D. Ginsburg, whom she soon married after. RBG incessantly spoke about her love for her husband of 56 years, who passed away from cancer in 2010. Treating her as his equal, he was instrumental in her rise to the highest court in the land. After giving birth to their daughter, Jane, the couple enrolled at Harvard Law School. In a class of over 500 students, there were just 9 women. And yes, Ruth was one of those 9. It was here that RBG recognized the great difficulties she'd faced in her career because of who she was. She called it the 3 strikes. She was Jewish, a woman, and a mom. But nevertheless, she persisted. And after becoming the first female member of the Harvard Law Review, RBG moved to New York and graduated from Columbia Law School, once again finishing first in her class. After some time struggling to find a job because she was a woman, Ginsburg began clerking for a U.S. district judge, then became a law professor at Rutgers University in 1963 and Columbia Law in 1972, where she earned another achievement, the first female tenured professor. It was during these teaching years that RBG had her first brush with the Supreme Court. She served as the director of the Women's Rights Project at the ACLU, where she argued 6 gender equality cases before the very bench she'd one day find herself seated on. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter tapped Ginsburg to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, where she'd served for 13 years. And finally, in 1993, President Clinton appointed Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the U.S. Supreme Court. Her nomination was confirmed by 96 votes to 3 in the Senate. She became the first ever Jewish woman to sit on the Supreme Court and the second female justice in U.S. history.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And it was throughout her 27 years on the Supreme Court that the liberal stalwart delivered key majority opinions and a handful of scathing dissents as the court moved further to the right in her later years. Her legacy will live through the arguments and decisions she delivered throughout her career.
Her 483 majority, concurring, and dissenting opinions will steer the court for decades. They are written with the unaffected grace of precision.
It's because of Justice Ginsburg that state-funded schools are required to admit women. It's because of Justice Ginsburg that discrimination based on gender and reproductive choices is unlawful. It's because of Justice Ginsburg that women can open their own bank accounts, credit cards, and mortgages without a male co-signer. And it's because of Justice Ginsburg that the idea of an all-female Supreme Court one day doesn't sound too out of reach. Take a listen.
And when I'm sometimes asked, when will there be enough? And I say, when there are 9. People are shocked. But there have been 9 men and nobody's ever raised a question about that.
It was also during her time in the Supreme Court that Justice Ginsburg became somewhat of an unexpected cultural icon, admired by younger generations. She was nicknamed the Notorious RBG, after the rapper, the Notorious B.I.G., and often found herself snapping selfies and signing autographs with people more than 4 times her junior. Justice Ginsburg ultimately fell victim to cancer after fighting 5 bouts of the disease after the course of 2 decades. On Friday, she'll achieve another first for women and the Jewish community, becoming the first woman and Jewish American to lie in state at the Capitol building. Thousands have already visited the steps of the Supreme Court, paying their respects for the late justice. She died just before sundown on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, the holiday that marks the Jewish New Year. But up until her final breath, RBG was still intertwined in the political mudslinging that has become somewhat of a fixture in Washington. Before she passed, RBG dictated her final words to her granddaughter. My most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed. Now, with a mere 40 days until the presidential election, there are countless questions and scenarios involving RBG's seat, and the implications here are huge. The appointment has the potential to bring the court to a 6-3 conservative majority, which could dramatically dictate law for the coming decades. When will the seat be filled, before or after Election Day? And who will be the man to fill it, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? We'll be sure to stay on this developing story as more details emerge. But overall, regardless of who replaces Justice Ginsburg and when that vote is called, there's one thing for certain. Justice Ginsburg's legacy will remain intact for years and years to come. I want to get back to that quote I mentioned at the top of the show, spoken by the late Justice herself. You can disagree without being disagreeable. We're a news and political debate show. Civil discourse is our goal. Justice Ginsburg's life is the epitome of just that. From her early days advocating for gender equality to the fiery dissents she delivered on the bench and her unexpected friendships with those she disagreed with, the late Justice knew that at the end of the day, respect for differing opinions and the individuals who hold those opinions reign supreme. RBG set such a strong example of what it means to have strong character and respect for others. So regardless of what happens over the next 40 days or 118 days, let's try to do one thing. Let's practice civil discourse. We can disagree on issues, but we shall never reach the point of being disagreeable. Rest in peace, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May her memory be a blessing.